I'll switch hands over. Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Australian Army Band Corps is Lieutenant Colonel Andrea McMahon. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony around Australia. During the ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors and students on behalf of the following schools. From Queensland, Morningside State School. Please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the hearts of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and other operations over more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we pay tribute to Sergeant Edwin George Enright, who was killed on active service with the Royal Air Force on the 8th of December 1941. Born in the small town of Bruthen near Bairnsdale in the East Gippsland region of Victoria, Edwin George Enright was the son of Edwin Patrick Enright and Eileen Mary Enright. Growing up, Enright went to Bruthen Central School before attending Essendon High School in Melbourne. A keen sportsman, Enright was a boxer. He played cricket, Australian football and tennis, and was involved in swimming and riding. Following his schooling, Enright passed his exams at Melbourne University to become a school teacher. Before commencing his teaching career, he spent a year in Queensland and the Northern Territory. On Remembrance Day, 11th of November 1940, Enright enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force. He soon commenced training as a pilot and on the 16th of July 1941 embarked in Sydney for overseas service, first to Canada, then to Britain. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, Enright was one of almost 27,500 RAF pilots, navigators, wireless operators, gunners and engineers who, throughout the course of the war, joined squadrons based in Britain. Enright arrived in Vancouver in March 1941 and undertook further specialist training in Canada before embarking for Britain the following July. Arriving in Britain in September, Enright was posted to the No. 72 Squadron Royal Air Force, which was equipped with Spitfires. On the 8th of December 1941, Enright took off for a sweep over northern France, flying as part of Biggin Hill Wing. 10 miles over the French coast, enemy aircraft were sighted and engaged. As the attack was broken off, Enright's Spitfire and the Spitfire accompanying him were attacked by a squadron of Messerschmitt 109Es. The accompanying Spitfire saw nothing more of Enright and radio contact was lost. Sergeant Enright had been killed in action. He was 29 years old. His body was not recovered and his name is commemorated upon the Air Force's memorial overlooking the River Thames, which lists all British and Commonwealth airmen with no known grave. Enright's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left among some 40,000 Australians who died whilst serving in the Second World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Sergeant Edwin George Enright, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. Thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and good evening.